The second federal extension for unemployment benefits is up and running now. Casey Lund has been tracking the unemployment crisis for months, and he has an important update today. Casey.
Yeah, good morning. It was Monday when they started allowing those claimants to file their claims for the second PEUC, Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation. They still haven't gotten paid, but at least they're able to file. It was a more than a month delay trying to get that program up and running. We're going to be diving into that a little bit more, but I want to talk about something else, and I want to introduce Ryan Ozawa with us, a former member of our Geek Beat squad, a Hawaii technologist, and somebody that's worked with state systems in the past. And so when we talk about the mainframe, the outdated computer system that the DLIR uses, and the timeline to update it. The last time I spoke to Director Ann Pereira-Stacchio, she gave me an 18-month timeline. They're using a company called Solid State, an Idaho-based company. It's a $10 million upgrade, some change going to that company, and then for the infrastructure, the remainder of that $10 million. Does that sound like a realistic timeline to you? Can you give us some insight?
Fortunately, I do work for a company that does software development. 18 months sounds like a long time. I'm sure for a lot of people, they're thinking, how hard could it possibly be? But 18 months is not out of line for me, and actually $10 million is less than what the federal government suggested states budget to do these overhauls, which is $30 to $40 million. And some states like California had to give up their modernization after spending $300 million.
And so I want to talk about Solid State. That company, you looked into it a little bit before we came on, and tell us what you learned, Ryan.
Well, usually the problem with these is finding companies that have this experience to do these kinds of upgrades. This company, Solid State, was actually established or founded in March of last year, at the peak of the unemployment crisis when it first came on. So not a company that's been around a long time. They probably sensed an opportunity to get into the business as a result. That might make you wonder if they have the experience, although they did do the Alabama system, but the website's still under construction. They have one Twitter follower, so there's not much information.
There's just not much of a track record there, but as you have worked, again, as you said, with the Board of Water Supply and the Y2K update and things like that, I guess it's nice to hear that, yes, we do need to have a little patience and a little understanding with some of these upgrades.
I would say so. I mean, again, you're dealing with a 35 to 40-year-old system, and the programmers that used to build them, they were old technology in my father's generation.
Yeah. Ryan Ozawa, thank you so much for being with us. We might talk with you a little bit later here, but again, the question still remains why this upgrade wasn't started earlier on. That's what a lot of people are asking. Yes, it is a lot of work, and it is really an unimaginable crisis that we're dealing with here, but we still have a lot of questions for the department and the EGA administration about why this wasn't started a little bit sooner. Unfortunately, we don't usually hear back from either of those parties. For now, we'll send it back to you.
Yep, and you keep trying, so thanks, Casey.
Can you tell us why that might be actually sort of a reasonable timeline to spin something like this up, a big cloud-based system?
Right. This was a crisis nationally affecting more than half the states before the pandemic, and now it's finding the resources and the talent and the companies that can do it. 18 months is not an unreasonable timeline, to me at least, for a large software development project, and that depends on whether they're going to be starting from scratch or trying to convert the existing system. My understanding is they're going to try to do a hard cutoff and move forward from that point.
And then the price tag on this is a little over $10 million, about $3.5 million for the contract to Solid State, an Idaho-based company that, as you mentioned, started very early, and the other remainder of that $10 million going to the infrastructure, storage, et cetera. Is that reasonable?
Well, the federal government actually told states to expect to spend about $30 to $40 million. So a $10 million price tag is not out of line. It sounds pretty good. And actually, for less than half of that to go to software development versus the infrastructure is kind of unusual. So hopefully, 18 months we can get a good system with an online portal and everything, which is the system that I think everyone imagines that we should have.
Very good. Ryan Ozawa, thank you for joining us this morning, giving us a little perspective. We still have a lot of questions about that.